Hello, everyone. You're welcome to another episode of Art of Religion, Interpersonal Work with God. So the topic today is righteousness. Righteousness. So I will start by saying that what is righteousness? We're going to define righteousness with dictionary explanation. Then also, how does that imply scripturally? As a child of God, as a Christian, what is righteousness? So to start with, we're just going to say the word righteousness. I'm going to divide it into two. The first one is right. Right indicates moral correctness. While the surface shows means to have the nature of. So when you bring the two words together, you get a simple definition of to have a nature of moral correctness. Now, this is basic definition to have a nature of moral correctness. Righteousness is the perfect holiness of Christ. This is not talking about a Christian. It is an essential attribute to the character of God. Quite literary meaning, one who is right. Think of it as the opposite of sin. To commit sin is to go against God's design for our lives. Therefore, righteousness is the only living standard that is acceptable for us to stand before the Father. The wages of sin is death, but in the path of righteousness is life. And in this pathway, there is no death. This is written in Proverbs 12:28. Now, all of us, we are born into complete bondage of sin, unable to produce any sort of righteousness of our own. That is, you are trying to make an effort to do right, but your sin nature, your Adamic nature is, if you look at it this way, who taught Cain to sin? I mean, Cain was son of Adam. The father was created by God. It's not as if there are 10 generation of them. It's okay. We say, okay, there is a generation of sin or this one, this. So, but Cain, being in that human nature, who taught him to sin? That's what I'm trying to define here. So in our inborn character, natural instinct, we might want to do right, but there's this tendency, a natural flow to unrighteousness, to sin, to do what is not right. That is why Isaiah said that in our attempt to produce righteousness on our own are disgusting in the eyes of God. God knows that we can't achieve righteousness by our efforts. We have all become like one who is unclean, and all our righteous deeds are like a polluted garment. That's what Isaiah said in the book of Isaiah 67, verse 6. Isaiah 64, verse 6. He said, our righteousness, our righteous deeds are like a filthy garment unto the Lord. We all fade like a leaf, and our iniquities, like the wind, takes us away. So, if we try to do right in our eyes, it's not going to please God, because we can't continue. If we get it right today, tomorrow, that natural instinct will still lure us to unrighteous deeds. So God is not waiting for that. So we are going somewhere, just building a foundation to help us know where we are going to. Even when our good deeds seems to be performed from the purest of motives, unless that motivation is to glorify the name of God, those deeds are completely self-righteous and sinful. You know, sometimes people will say, let me do this. I'm going to wear a longer dress. I'm going to do this. So those things, as good as they may, the word decency could be seen differently as righteousness. You're just trying to be decent, to wear decent clothes and all that. The point is, if you get those ones right today, how about tomorrow? Okay, so we're going somewhere, like I said earlier. So if my simple acts of doing things right, I don't do this, I don't this, if that's not enough to please God, what then can please God in the issue of righteousness? What can I do to please God? So the Bible defines righteousness as something his people should pursue. We are going to read 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 22. And I read, flee the evil desires of youth and pursue righteousness, faith, love, and peace, along with those who call on the Lord out of pure heart. So Timothy is advising us, advising the youth to pursue righteousness, faith, love, and peace, along with those who call on the Lord, name of the Lord with a pure heart. If we're unable to produce righteousness by our own effort, so where do we now get righteousness? Our righteousness is imputed from Jesus through the atoning work that he accomplished on the cross of Calvary. We couldn't produce righteousness. Christ produced it for us. Like I said, we are not able to please God by the acts, the actions, the deeds, the doings. So God made a provision. Our righteousness comes from Jesus Christ. God allowed him to die on the cross of Calvary so that he become our righteousness. For our sake, he made him to sin who have no sin, so that in him we might become the righteousness of God. That is 2 Corinthians. God allowed Jesus Christ to bore our sins. The scripture said that the cause is he that is hanged on a tree. Because Jesus was full of sin, which was our own, he was allowed to die because of us. So because Jesus died, our righteousness is that of Jesus. Only the perfection of Christ could have accomplished this work. That is, only the perfect work of Jesus Christ could make us holy. Only Jesus could have lived a perfect, obedient, and sinless life. Only Jesus could have atoned for the sins of us. Let me not say of these people. Only the righteousness of Christ will enter God's kingdom. So what am I saying? Any other person, any of our acts is not enough to please God. So when Jesus Christ was introduced into the scene and he came, he lived here on earth, he lived perfectly, he lived righteously, and he completed it. Because there was no sin found in him, he was the person qualified to now die for us. Okay, let's compare what Jesus Christ did for us with, let's look at the law a little. Before Jesus came, there was the law. There was the Moses, there was the Israelites. So let's do a little comparison. Now, I'm saying that when God delivered the Israelites out of the land of Egypt through Moses, God gave them a set of laws. These laws, we call them 10 Commandments. Now, the purpose of this law was to teach the Israelites how to live righteously through obedience. It was to teach them how to live like God. God made a covenant with their forefathers Abraham that if you walk before me righteously, I'm going to make your descendant great. Now, these people have come on the scene. God have delivered them from the hand of the Egyptian and put them in the land where he promised to give them from their forefathers, from Abraham. Are they going to start living anyhow? If they are redeemed, if they are covenant children of God, how would they be? Are they going to be like the Egyptians? How are they expected to live? Of course, they must live differently because they are covenant children of God. Now, God gave them these laws to teach them how to live like him. God cannot be a holy God and have children that are unholy. So if God delivered the Israelites from the hand of the Egyptians, which means God wants them to be like him. God is expecting something from them. There's an expectation. That's why it is a covenant. That's why it's a two-way. If you do this, he told Abraham, if you do this, if your descendant walk before me uprightly, if they keep their own part of the bargain, this is what I will do to them. If he should deliver the Israelites from the land of the Egyptian and drove them, if it was to teach them how to live like him, God is a God of justice and order. If he should deliver the Israelites from the land of the Egyptians and drove some people out from the land of Canaan and gave it to the Israelites, it means that Israelites should be a different kind of people who ought to be just and holy. I'm making an example here. I say, if not, why will God bring them out of Egypt for them to continue the wickedness of the inhabitants of the land where they occupy? What I'm saying here is, when they were in Egypt, the Egyptians were not serving God. They were full of wickedness. They were killing. They were doing murder. They were serving pagan God. It's possible that these Israelites have learned paganism, serving other gods from their slave masters, from the Egyptians. Now, if they should come out of the land of Egypt, those sinful nature is already with them. They're already used to paganism. They're already used to doing those kind of things. They are copying from their slave masters. So God does not expect them to still live that same way, because God is God of justice and God of order. For example, the Sodom and Gomorrah were destroyed for wickedness. So if God should give the land of Sodom and Gomorrah for them to inhabit, it means that they should not do the same sins which made God to destroy the Sodomites. If the Canaanites were sinners, they were pagans, and God drove them out. The Egyptians, the Israelites cannot come to the land of Canaan and continue insane. God will be unjust. So for God to remain holy, which is who he is, this new set of people must live rightly to justify why did you drive the Canaanites and bring them and they're still in sin. So it doesn't work that way. Just like us now. Why should God call us a Christian? If I'm here, living here, people around me are all sinners and I'm also a sinner. So why will I be God's child? What's the difference? So if the Israelites should be seen as regarded as God's covenant nation, they should be holy, just like God, whom they are serving. The purpose of this commandment, the purpose of the commandments is to enable God to deliver them, restore them, and establish a covenant with his people as long as they keep their own part of the covenant. By those do's and don'ts, God is trying to show them how to relate with him. However, because of their hardened hearts of stone, they constantly rebel against God. These Israelites were not able to keep their own part of the bargain. Any little thing they revoked against God. When Moses was taking them around the journey, anywhere they get to, and there was no water, they will start shouting, they will start complaining, they will start grumbling, and they forgot the previous miracle. So their hearts were hardened. They were not easily to please. They don't have faith. They don't have confidence in God. They are just so easy to sin. The prophet Ezekiel said that one day God will give them a new heart in order to obey his law. And I'll give them one heart and a new spirit I'll put with them. I'll remove the heart of stone from their flesh and give them a heart of I'll remove a heart of stone, give them a heart of flesh, that they may walk in my statutes and keep my rules and obey them. This is Ezekiel 11:9. I'll give them an undivided heart and put a new spirit in them. I will remove from them their heart of stone and give them a heart of flesh. So which means in order for the Israelites to be able to obey God, they need a new heart to replace their hearts of stone. They grumble easily. They're easy to complain. They have no patience. They have no faith, no confidence in God. They're just quick to complain. They needed a new heart that would desire, that would love God, that would desire God. I mean, since God have done one miracle for you, when you get to a difficult situation, endure a little. Just endure. Wait for God to do it for you. It applies to us today. We are almost like them too. God, since you have seen the miracle of God, you've seen the mercy of God. When you get to a situation where it seems tight, don't begin to wail and mourn and complain. Give God some time. Give God some time to know, oh, God did one of yesterday, he can do the one of today. So that's what God expects from us. Now, remember that I said, let's compare Jesus Christ let's compare the 10 commandments and Jesus Christ. Now, this is the Israelites. We're now going back to Jesus Christ. Now, Jesus entered the scene now. I'm going to say now. When God sees that man is unable to fulfill their own part of the covenant by struggling to live right today and fail tomorrow, God brings in Jesus Christ in the scene. This is why the book of Isaiah said, then I heard the voice of the Lord saying, whom shall I send and who will go for us? And I said, here am I, send me. So Jesus entered into the scene to do that which the Lord cannot do. The people were not able to live right by obeying the do's and don'ts. So God changed the scenario. It's okay, I know what I'm going to do. So he introduced Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ is the fulfillment of the law. For Christ is the end of the law of righteousness to everyone who believes. When God sees that his people, when God sees his people, when God sees us, he's not looking at us again. God is seeing us through the righteousness of Jesus Christ. He sees us instantly and completely justified through that righteousness. That was the purpose of the cross. Out of love and mercy, Christ came to fulfill the law for us. He fulfilled the commandments for his people. We were unable to obey the law and live righteousness. So Christ came and lived in perfection in our place. He took our disobedience, he took our sin, and nailed them to the cross and gave us his righteousness. So all you have to do is accept him. When you accept him, God will now see you in the eyes of Jesus Christ. That is why it is important that you accept Jesus Christ. It is the good news of the gospel. We don't have to work and try to produce our own righteousness. Christ has grouped us with righteousness. His entire earthly mission was to reconcile us back to God. So, brothers and sisters, when you accept Jesus Christ and you know that God is not seeing you by your acts, He's looking at you through the righteousness of Jesus. Of course, you still have things you do, you still have things you have to do, but just know that it is not that those your do's and don'ts. You don't this, you don't this. No, that's not what God is looking at, because you can always fall and make mistake. So God sees you through the righteousness of Jesus Christ. We are going to stop here today for time. Thank you for listening.